Holman, are you as tired as I am?
Let's see. We flew back from Superior, Wisconsin, actually Minnesota, after a 3-hour drive from Wisconsin last night, and then realized I'm gone for a week and you're going on vacation for 2 weeks. We went, we got a whole lot of work to do ahead of us.
Yes. So you guys, unless you followed, we didn't see much about it, but
No.
Holman and I traveled to Superior, Wisconsin to get a factory tour at AMSOIL.
Total behind the scenes, not even just a factory tour, like a full deep dive with chemists and engineers and product planners. We saw the bottling line. We saw where the railroad tankers come in and drop off the base oils, all that. And it's going to be awesome. So we're not going to be diving into that this episode because my man Lightning's got some show putting together to do.
We recorded 80 freaking hours of content, and there's no way you guys have the time to sit through that. So I'm trimming it down to just the gold. And I took the first pass already, and I love it.
Would you say you're just trimming it down to the signature series? All right, well, before we get to the content, we have to thank our presenting sponsor, Nissan. So the Truck Show podcast is presented by Nissan, and you need a new truck, let's face it. Your truck is beat down, it's ugly, it's
Unless
broken.
they have a new Nissan.
But they need a second Nissan for their significant other. Really? So the other truck they have is broken down and it's unreliable and it's ugly. Behold,
you know this for sure. It's ugly.
100%.
Okay.
Behold the Nissan Frontier, a fantastic looking midsize pickup truck. It's got everything you need. We love them. Head on over to NissanUSA.com where you can build and price. And I don't know that they want me to tell you, but the 25s are on the way, and they're pretty awesome. So
maybe you shouldn't. Maybe they should get a deal on a 24.
Go get a deal on a 24, and then in about a month, we're going to start talking all about the 25.
So we're going to depress them?
Yeah, head on down to your local dealer and check out the Frontier. Whether it's the 24, 25, you can't go wrong. It's one of our favorite midsize trucks, and you should experience it for yourself.
And if you happen to find yourself over at bankspower.com, you might click on the tab for the first. You're like, wait a minute, what is this fluid cooling category I've never seen on their website? Oh my gosh, wait a minute. If I have a 2017 to 2019 Duramax, I can get a Cool Runner oil pan that keeps my motor oil temps cooler than a factory or any of the competitors. Oh, wait a minute. They also have a patented Ram Air transmission pan for Allison transmissions 01 to 2019 and soon for the 2020 plus. You can buy them individually or you can couple it all with a diff cover for the ultimate fluid cooling bundle. Head over to bankspower.com to check out the brand new Cool Runner oil pan, Ram Air trans pan, and couple it with your favorite Ram Air rear differential cover. It's all at bankspower.com.
So when you were at AMSOIL with me, what was your favorite little side nugget that you learned there?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Okay, I think the facility was the most impressive, but my takeaway is going to be actually seeing and holding many of the chemical additives in my hand, like in little jars.
We say additives, but you never know what they are. We know, and it's going to be on the next episode.
I've seen them. Yeah. Like, they're real.
All right. My favorite was finding out that Bobby Unser was sponsored by oil company other than AMSOIL, and he used to take bags of AMSOIL. They called it brown bagging it, and all of his race cars ran AMSOIL. That's pretty rad.
It's rad.
Like you're like, yeah, I'll take your sponsorship oil company, and then in the back door you're like, hey, Al Amatuzio, can you send me some bottles because I don't trust that stuff in my ride.
What's crazy is that potentially the main sponsor knew, but they didn't care because he was winning,
and their name was on the car.
Right.
And just like the Unser family, find out how AMSOIL synthetic lubricants can save you money and time by helping your vehicles run better and last longer than with conventional oils. Head over to AMSOIL.com. AMSOIL is the first in synthetics.
So, Holman, you'll recall that across from Banks, our main parking lot, there's a massive dirt project. So It's always dusty.
I hate going there because even if I'm only there for an afternoon, my car is completely covered in dust.
Everything is, it's awful. So, in the mornings and at night, it starts getting dewy, and that dirt just gets in everything. What it doesn't get into is the bed of my truck, thanks to the EGR Roll Track electric retractable bed cover. It's as close as you can get to a trunk on a pickup truck. If you're looking for a truly impressive retractable bed cover, head over to EGRUSA.com to find yours.
The Truck Show. We're gonna show you what we know. We're gonna answer what the truck, 'cause truck rhymes with the Truck Show. We have the lifted, we have the lowered, and everything in between. We'll talk about trucks that run on diesel and the ones that run on gasoline. The Truck Show, the Truck Show, the Truck Show. Oh, oh.
It's the Truck Show with your hosts, Lightning and Holman.
Holman, is this the first time that we've had Christian Hazel in studio?
Definitely this studio.
Yeah, I've been
podcast.
to your house, but not since...
but not studio.
The studio was not here when you were at his house.
Correct.
And I think we've had you on, but it was on the phone before from our old studio because you work remote.
Yeah, I've been on the podcast a couple times, but this is the first time here in person
In the pod shed.
in the pod
So what do you think of the pod shed?
I think it's rad. The TV and the American flag and the...
So the American flag was a gift from Clinton Cunliffe, one of our listeners, and then that's the shelf over there of listener
random
gifts.
assortment of gifts.
Yeah,
Is
Hot
that
Wheels
growler
and-
full of...
The growler's empty, but we do have the ant farm, and that was a throwback to our first studio at the old Santa Ana office, which was full of ants all the time. So we would be doing a show, and ants would be crawling on the microphone while you're talking into it. And you're like, "Oh, ant!" And I think people thought we were kidding, but that place was covered in ants. So a listener sent us a ant farm.
There was an ant farm actually in his beard at one point. Like
I have
they
no
would
problem
crawl
believing
off the
that.
mics and into his beard. I'm like,
Yeah, it was
hey,
gross.
Yeah. And then we have the license plate over here, Bropar, that didn't make my TRX.
Okay, so-
that was a runner-up prize.
You don't
there.
know that, but Jay thought this would be a funny TRX. So he's like, dude, I'm going to totally get Bropar. And I'm like, that's so dumb. He goes, no, dude, it's Mopar, but like bro.
But
And
I'm
like-
making fun of guys like me who have
And
Rams.
I'm like, that's stupid.
Don't you think it's funny to make? It's great to make fun of yourself. That's
so
what I
gave,
thought.
I gave
I
him
think
an
it's lost
alternate.
in translation.
Thank you. I gave him an
Really?
alternate. I tell him the alternate I gave you that now is on your truck.
Yummy gas.
There you go.
You like that one better?
Yeah.
Well, it's almost unanimous. So that's why that plate is up there, and I lost, and I'm running the plate that Holman came up with.
Yep. Yummy gas.
And then behind you is the it's a Cybertruck with a
big wiener with a crown
wiener
on
in
it.
the back.
Yeah. That was a gift from listener Marshall. So
I saw that, but I'm not going to touch it.
You don't.
No, don't.
No, if you
We don't know
notice-
where it's been.
No, although if you notice one of the jewels of the crown is broken off because it's fallen off the shelf a few times.
Oh, sure. It
Yeah.
fell. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
It's not the only part of a Cybertruck that falls apart, from what I understand.
Ouch.
Yep.
Ouch. Well, good thing Tesla doesn't care about anything we say.
No, they don't. Christian, what brings you to the pod shed? You're talking about UA, right? But it's a different UA. It stands for something new now.
It's new UA.
Yes, Unreal Adventure is the new old event that my partner Trent McGee and I are doing this year. Since there's no longer an Ultimate Adventure, we just could not, in good conscience, let it die, and so we're continuing on. We've got a great group of sponsors. We've got the whole band back together. You know, our trusted group of cronies who help facilitate the event. And so it's going forward.
Fantastic. Let's get Trent on the phone, if you don't mind, and then we'll play our intro. Hold on a second. Holman just texted me Trent's number, at which I'm going to dial.
Hello.
Is this one Mr. Trent McGee, Lightning Holman, and Mr. Christian Hazel on the phone? How you doing?
Well, hi guys. How are you?
Awesome. Before we can let you talk, we have to play an intro, so don't move.
I've got 4 big tires and some beadlock wheels. I've got 4 big tires and some beadlock wheels. I've got 4 big tires and some beadlock wheels.
Where it's at, the off-road edition.
All right, so
That jingle could be like half its length, don't you think?
well, it is the same line over and over
Yeah, I
again.
know.
So,
It's not very creative.
so how long did you work at Motor Trend in
Ju-
whatever various forms?
Just a couple months under 25 years.
So I was there about 2 weeks short of 20 years, and it's funny. I obviously things happen. I moved on. You moved on, and we've had a bunch of listeners who are like, "Hey, do you ever hear from Vern or Hazel? Get them on the show." And then and I knew that this whole deal with Unreal Adventure was kind of cooking in the background, and then it pops up in my feed, and I'm like, "All right." And then I had a bunch of listeners go, "Dude, get them on. Why we want to hear about Unreal Adventure?" So I'm glad you're able to come out because we haven't talked in a while. And it's awesome to see all my friends who I spent a lot of time with in the throes of the Motor Trend machine at the Word Factory to go out and do cool things. So
And how did you and Trent hook up originally?
Trent and I met
on a beach, right? It was a long walk.
It was
with drinks with umbrellas.
I answered an ad in the paper.
Is it drummer wanted?
Something about pina coladas. I don't remember. But no. So Trent used to be the technical editor of Four Wheel and Off Road back when I was a subscriber and an avid voracious reader. And so I used
That's
to
right.
read.
I think I predated both of you guys, if I'm not mistaken.
You sure did.
You did, yeah. So Trent was one of the OG crowd who worked for
OG
Cornell.
Peterson.
Yeah.
Like he actually had Peterson on his checks. I had my first go around. I had Prime Media and McMullen on mine.
I was gonna say, like, there was McMullen, Argus, and then you had like, take us through like the 20 companies that ended up being.
We called it Pepsi 10. That was the only way you could remember it. So it was Peterson, EMAP, Prime Media, Source Interlink, then 10, the Enthusiast Network, and then Discovery bought it and
killed it.
Well, I'm not.
Then Time Warner.
Yeah,
I went through all of them.
Yeah.
I got hired in Peterson and ended with where they are now.
So you have to remember there were two different offices. There was the Los Angeles office, which was the Peterson magazines, and then there's the Orange County office to the south. In the Anaheim.
Is that by Anaheim Stadium, right?
Well, that was one of the locations, but it was McMullen was down there. And so they were two competing entities that eventually got bought up by the same company and brought together. So there was always this like LA versus OC thing. Like if you think about, Truckin' Magazine and Mini Truckin' and Off-Road, those are all OC titles. And if you go to Four Wheeler, Peterson's Four Wheel and Off-Road, JP, those were all LA titles. And I remember I was one of the few people that jumped the shark and went from OC to LA. And then I felt like I went to the big league.
Were you going to the Death Star?
Yeah, 6420.
6420
was the OG. Yep.
Yeah, I worked on the 7th
and
floor.
remember, I worked on the 10th floor, and but remember, Four Wheeler was not part of that at the time.
No,
Four Wheeler was General Media.
That was General Media,
Yeah.
which was Penthouse, right? Oh, no.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Guccione. And so Penthouse and Four Wheeler, so back in the day, before even Four Wheeler got sucked into the Peterson empire, Four Wheeler and Penthouse were in the same building. And so there's all these stories about the Four Wheeler guys sneaking onto the Penthouse level
Right.
during photo shoots and all that kind of stuff. And
Did you guys used to run into like Guccione or Bob Guccione Jr.? Because he was on our radio show all the time. Super cool dude. And then just went sideways and disappeared. I don't know whatever happened to him.
Well, no, because at least for Trent and myself, we were Peterson. So whatever company it was, Prime Media, I think at the time, bought Four Wheeler. And so those guys all came in there. We never worked with those.
Yeah.
But it was
I think
funny
they were
because
like a mile down the road.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. But we were very much competitors. And so when they came up to our floor, not only our building, but they put us all on the same floor. It was very
Stink Eye
funny
City.
because Four Wheeler had the side that faced the Hollywood sign.
Yeah,
And
so my office was Hollywood sign and the Griffith Observatory.
That's a cool view.
It was awesome. I hated being there, though, because my commute was 2.5 hours, but...
Well, and I remember Ben Stewart, if you guys remember him from, he was a staffer on Four Wheeler for a long time. I remember him telling me, we became pretty good friends, and he said that he used to like sneak into craft services when they were doing the various shoots for the other adult magazine or whatever, and get free lunches out of the thing.
Well, at least you get a free...
Now, wait a minute.
free
Is that
lunch.
like going to the strip club and having a steak dinner? It's like...
I don't
If your
know.
steak
I'm
dinner
not
is
sure.
paid for, sure. Yeah, I so when I was in the Orange County offices, if you looked at the old McMullen Argus logo, he had a cougar on it. And so he had this fascination with big cats, and he actually had two as a pet, and they would roam the office at night.
Who's the he?
Tom McMullen.
Okay.
And so his logo was the head of a cougar, and the big cats would walk around your office, and they would pee in your cubicles at night and things like that. And then I'd go up to L.A., after hearing those stories, and I'm hearing all that
other kind of cougars.
and it's all sorts of stuff. I mean, I came in the 2000s. Back in the 80s, it was like lines of coke and photography.
Oh, that was when
Like-
they were up in Sunset
Yeah.
Boulevard.
Yeah, I've heard epic stories about
Yeah.
8490 Sunset when they were there.
yeah, and Petty
rolling your
Cash.
cake down the aisle midday on Friday, that kind of thing.
But those stories are always better in the rear view,
Yeah,
right? I mean,
hindsight,
like
yeah.
when I was working there, the stories we'd tell of when I started and stuff, like the new guys couldn't believe it was going, so it's always It's always shinier in the
in the rear view.
Rose-colored
A
glasses.
little bit of historical revisioning, right? Because you want to tell a good story. Don't ever let
Hold
the
on
truth get away with a good story.
I don't think that a lot that stuff really did happen in the penthouse days.
For sure.
Oh, yeah.
Like in the 80s and 90s, like that was real.
Yeah, and the stories that, that I had from as a new staffer were pretty good too. You know, it's just you get more and more constricted, and you lose more and more freedoms, and so then and it's death by a thousand cuts, and you don't realize it's happening. And next thing you know, it's like, oh yeah, we used to be able to actually go and
do stuff.
I lived during the days when we couldn't buy copy paper and pens because the office credit card was maxed out for that month or something like that. Yeah, it was pretty epic. Not same at all. Those guys, I remember those guys having like 6-page a month responsibilities or whatever, which you guys all know is nothing. I think the lowest I ever had was like 12 or 13 or something like that. And it was just they were able to spend all kinds of time and everything on their stories and probably partied a lot and everything. So, it's crazy.
When I started at Truckin' Magazine, and that was one of the Orange County titles, but Truckin' Magazine at that time had 13 issues. Our biggest issue was July of 2004 or something like that.
Was it 13th the Buyer's Guide?
I don't remember, but it was 435 pages or something like that.
Oh, my God.
Wow. Yeah, and so we were literally making off ad sales over $1 million an issue. And so just trucking in a year was like, $13-14 million.
I remember that when those ads were like eight grand a page.
And they had 8 pages.
Yeah.
Or they had 10 pages. Like a 4-wheel parts had everything. And so you'd get a new advertiser in and they'd be like, well, I don't know what product. You're like, well, look at what 4-wheel parts is doing because they know exactly what's selling right now, right? But I remember we had expense accounts $10,000, $12,000, $13,000 a month. I remember dudes coming back and they took their clients to like the strip club and paid on the corporate card, and it was like nobody said anything. And I remember a few rental cars that had problems and just got covered. And as long as you were
wrote a check for it.
Yeah, as long as you were making. There are a few famously the Hummer H1 that was rolled on the 4-wheeler staff that cost the company $150,000.
I remember
write-off.
I had a office with a window that overlooked the other side, facing away from the Hollywood sign.
Yeah.
But I used to drive up from San Diego every day, and so I would get there absurdly early.
Brutal.
Oh,
yeah, he did.
For those of you that don't know, that's 3 hours.
It's 126 miles door to door. That was my commute. And
Well,
an
mine
85
was-
Ram Charger with 37.
Mine was 33 miles from Huntington Beach to the west side, or 35 miles, and it took me 2 hours.
But anyway, I'm sitting there drinking my coffee. I'm looking out the window, and here comes a yellow H1 Hummer. I'm like, oh, that's the 4-wheeler Hummer. And as it's pulling into the parking lot, I'm on the 10th floor looking down. I'm like, wow, that roof is so wrinkled. Man, the build quality on those is crap. Come to find out they'd actually managed to roll a billiard table. How?
Well, I think of all the things that we got away with and the things that were, so 20 years ago, 30 years ago, we were the original influencers. You talk about influencers now. One of the biggest missteps, I think, in publishing is that our management was afraid to let us have our Twitter handles and our Facebook handles in our stories because they were afraid you were going to build the audience to the magazine and then leave, and then you would go compete against them. So they didn't allow it. So we allowed everybody else to have a handle and compete against us and eat our lunch. And so if you remember back in the day, it was, oh, that's John Kappa at JP, or that's Rick Payway at Pearson 4-Wheel and Off-Road, or that's David Freiberger at Hot Rod, or you always had a person who was associated with the magazine. Once they watered that down and no longer focused on the people, the magazines lost their personality because they started sharing writers between competing brands, and all of a sudden they kind of gentrified the whole lineup. And now all of a sudden, not only was there not differentiation between the magazines, but now the personalities didn't stand out, and so people kind of walked away and got bored with it. And instead of letting us continue to be the influencers and building the audience to build credibility, they let the business collapse around us, and that's kind of the slow death that I think.
The same thing was happening in radio exactly at the same time, and Holman and I have had this conversation several times. We're not going to talk about radio, but it was super weird. Every time he would tell me a story about publishing, I go, you're describing the business that I'm in. I'm in radio, and exactly the same thing is happening.
I think that's just indicative of, anything that starts from a grassroots enthusiast level, whether it be radio or magazines or whatever, as you said, Sean, we were, I was a reader. I was out there doing it.
Yep.
I was doing that on the weekends, whether they paid me to or not.
Exactly.
So, and when we were controlling those social media properties in the early days, it was about, us and the lifestyle, and but you can't monetize that, right? And
Right,
so then
yeah.
the company goes, "Oh, that's pretty good. We'll take that. Thanks." And then you cut you out, and then all of a sudden it's an ad for Comet floor cleaner.
Well, and I remember when magazines were king, manufacturers would beat down our door to give us keys. I remember one time we flopped a Jeep on 4-wheeler of the year. It was a JK. It was the first year of the 4-door, so it would have been a 06 for 07 model year. It fell off of a rock, flopped on its side, but it landed on the fender and then the top corner of the roof, and then folded the mirror in. No body damage. There's a little bit of a crack on it. We rolled it back over, and I called Jeep and I said, "Hey, I'm really sorry." They're like, "Is it drivable?" I'm like, yeah. They go, "Well, if it wins, we don't care what you do to it. Bring it back to us on a pallet." And I was like, "Oh, okay." I'm thinking I'm going to have the conversation where they're going to come take our keys.
When I was at 4-wheel and off-road, Jeep used to build a vehicle.
Remember the
just
tags?
So
you would put it up on the
I've got one
lift.
on my garage wall that says
Built for
4WOR 4x4 of the year.
Yeah, so manufacturers, I think we talked about this with Johnny Lieberman, but manufacturers used to build cars specific for our tests.
Wow.
And they would be like, "Hey, maybe these options aren't quite available together, but
we
we're
just
going
had
to
to make
it."
sure they weren't ringers. That's
Yeah.
all.
I mean, we would jump trucks, we would, rally trucks, we would race trucks, we would do, all sorts of stuff. And back then it was like, do more, This is all the stuff we can't do because our lawyers won't let us. So,
Well, is it weird to you guys having been through all that and seen it all, and then there was a lull because you guys were, not to compare you to like a Jackass, but when Jackass started, it was kind of revolutionary, and then it went away, and then now you've got YouTube and you've got like Whistle and Diesel and all these guys doing that kind of thing. It's the next generation. Like the medium has changed, but people have found a way to do that again.
yeah, but we didn't do it gratuitously to break stuff.
That's exactly
the
it.
difference.
Yeah, we were
That's true.
finding
That's very true.
legitimately finding the limitations of it, and the only way you find the limitation is to push it right up to, and sometimes.
Well, he's
pass.
breaking stuff, and I'm not saying
No, but
about
his
that.
his whole business
That's
model.
his shtick.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm going to entertain you by destroying everything I touch.
Sure. But there's a lot of other guys that actually do proper overlanding. How to do this, how to do that, how to build this, how not to build this, how to do all these things. Like you can find it all on the internet, but it moved from like this industry, radio, TV, magazines got super watered down and corporatized, and then it all moved to like independent people on YouTube.
Yeah, but two things happen. One is, to your point, if the magazines got watered down. The second thing is self-publishing became a thing. If self-publishing had never entered the realm, this industry would be a lot different than it is today. But self-publishing came. So now, all of a sudden, your credibility came from how many views or how many followers you had versus whether you actually knew the subject matter you were talking about. And there's gobs of people with giant audiences who got in at the right time or built an audience in the early days when the algorithm was about building and not about monetization, who people think are experts, and they're out there giving horrible advice. And they're just like, "Oh, yeah, this is what I would do." And you're going, "That's wrong," but just because they have a big audience.
Yeah.
So we lost the authority and the credibility that existed in the magazine world that kind of set that standard, and in a way the ethics of like how that should be presented, all that went away.
But I also think it was self-publishing. You did find some new blood too. Like we never would have found Tavares. We never would have found so many YouTubers that actually are incredibly talented and knowledgeable. So say what you want about this industry kind of getting killed by its, like death by a thousand cuts, but this new one has sprang up, and there's a lot of talent out there.
Yeah, I mean, you can literally find anything out there now, good, bad, or other.
That's my biggest thing with social media and everything is that, anybody that can fog a mirror and has a Gmail account can start a YouTube channel. It's very difficult. It takes time to kind of vet that stuff. And you're 100% right, Sean. I mean, the credibility, where does the vetting come from? And even today, everything you got to do, everything you see on social media or YouTube or whatever is totally, you got to take it with a grain of salt, and you got to vet it. That's unfortunate because you didn't really have to do that at the magazines. Like we had standards, we had things we had standards we had to uphold.
We also self-police too. I mean, how many people came in and they're only there for the scam train? They got run out of town pretty fast. And you look at the ones who had longevity, people just didn't leave. 12, 15, 20, 25 years. because you truly knew. I think was it Johnny Hunkins who said it best? We have the best job in the world, one day at a time.
Yeah.
Because we were always worried. People are like, "Are you worried about getting laid off or losing your job?" Like every day for the past 20 years, right? But we truly take that stress away. We truly had the best jobs. We had jobs that people would dream of, and you think even a bad day, you would sit there and be like, "Today sucked," and then you'd be like, "But you know how many people wished they had a sucky day like mine today?"
There are
And
guys
we were
digging
fortunate.
ditches.
I mean, we did that for, all of us for, and we're still doing it in some ways for 20, 30 years. Like, we're so fortunate and blessed to have been part of that. And, we self-policed, and we knew the people within our ranks that shouldn't have been there or gave bad advice or their stories were bad. We chased them out. We made sure that only the enthusiasts, and that was the other thing. We also were enthusiast-centric. So I think the big difference of the magazine versus some of like the buff or like the like Motor Trend or Car and Driver, like the straight OE kind of buff books versus the enthusiast books like we had in
What
our
does that
on the
mean, buff
aftermarket.
books?
Gearheads.
Okay.
I mean, that's kind of what they. That's what.
Oh,
they
like a
call them.
buff. Yeah, car buff. Got it.
Right. So I think those guys were a lot like engineers. They're kind of more analytical, things like that. Our guys were more enthusiasts. Our guys weren't just doing the like nuts and bolts, dot the I's, cross the T procedure. We were fabricating or figuring out new ways or showing you something novel or finding a new product. And I felt like the enthusiast side that came out of our magazines is what was that was the salt, right? Like that's the flavor of what we were doing versus some of the more straight, more boring stuff from like an engineering perspective.
Car and Driver more than Road and Track. Some of them were like engineers, like the editors were engineers.
Well, I remember Chubba Chetta back in this day wrote letters to the editor. Somebody wrote, "I'd like to be a magazine," and he's like, "Don't even try it. You won't get in. You need to have an engineering degree." Meanwhile, I went through the police academy and I just love cars. I'm like, "Hey, I want to go work for you," and they're like, "Yeah, come on down."
Car guy here, please hire.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it turned out okay for me.
I think those guys, like the Road and Tracks and those guys were very much, interested in specifications and stuff like that. I feel like with them, it was, there were, don't get me wrong. I feel like I'm lumping all those editors into one category, and I'm not. There were some very, very, very good editors
Yes.
of those respective books, but there was an awful lot of, doing car reviews based on a spec sheet. And, it could even be argued that some of the awards back in the day were maybe decided more around a conference table than, during a test.
Hold on. I will say that
I
never.
don't know. I wasn't there.
That
but
never happened at
just say-
four-wheeler. I know people
and
wonder.
it never happened at four-wheel and off-road either.
But
And that
there
never,
are
ever happened.
sister magazines that I would say that absolutely happened out. The other thing I would say is
Yeah.
some of those magazines were more about the spec sheet, and I think what we did was more about the experience. Right, I think like we were like, how does it actually work? What's it feel like? Yeah, maybe it didn't win on paper on the spec sheet. Maybe it didn't have the the most travel up the RTI ramp or the most horsepower. But man, this thing just was awesome to use, and I think that we were kind of being enthusiasts. We cared more about how it worked in the real world versus what the spec sheet said.
So does that stuff exist today? Can you go somewhere for an unbiased review that's not being bought by one of the manufacturers? Like, where would
Absolutely.
you turn?
OVR magazine. We have no OE advertising, so rest assured, my reviews in there are completely straight.
Okay.
Well, and going back to what you were saying, in terms of real world testing, I mean, we broke a lot of stuff. We broke transfer cases, we broke axles, we broke diffs and dented fenders and all that stuff, but we were really testing the cars. I mean, and that's really just a byproduct. And I think that, I can remember having several awkward conversations with OEs after those various tests where it's like, hey man, hey, I'm really sorry, but the center diff on this Land Cruiser blew up and we're not sure why, but
and here's where you can send the tow truck to go pick it up.
And we've done that. I remember one year we rammed a Suzuki something into the back of an H3, and we left it in Prim, Nevada, and told the company where they could pick it up.
Wait, what? Why would you not organize the flatbed or something?
Because we're testing.
Because we're testing. We're moving every day.
Other vehicles.
we're on a deadline. On a deadline.
I remember, it was things like skid plates. So then we have, they have factory
into the door.
Yeah, they would bend the pinch weld or bend into the door, bend the rocker, and you're going, wait, I would have been better off. I would have cleared that rock if I didn't have the rock rails on it, right? So, I mean, it's all that kind of stuff. The vehicles you see today, like a JL Rubicon or a Colorado ZR2 Bison or, a Power Wagon. Those all are there because of what our magazines did with testing and how every manufacturer wanted to be able to sell something that would win our tests. Like, that whole market exists because of the stuff that we did.
Yeah, the Rubicon,
Forerunner,
several other,
TRD
like
Pros.
you said, the TRD program on the truck side anyway. All that stuff. It's all born out of that. I remember, I don't know if you guys remember Elvis, but that was the
TJ, the
green,
Freiberger, and
they did like a pre-Rubicon build, and it was totally, they were involved with the Skunk Works, and they got their hands on a 4-to-1 transfer case,
Jim
and
Rep
put
and
it
Dave
in,
Yagi and those guys.
Yeah. And we had really close relations, or they had really close relationships with those guys. And by the way, the whole reason that Jeep was named Elvis is because there was an Elvis CD stuck in the CD player.
Yeah, I remember that.
Is that true?
Yeah.
That's 100% true.
Yep.
Let's go to UA. Let's change gears.
The new UA.
The new UA, yes.
Well, we'll start with, the old Ultimate Adventure, which the first one was held in 1999. And that's actually where Trent and I first met in person. He was a marketing manager for Superlift, and I was an FNG, brand new, wide-eyed editor at Four Wheel and Off Road, camera around my neck, and couldn't believe I had the luck of doing this for a living now. And
he was a wide-eyed, bushy-tailed. It was so funny, and I was so jaded and so over it. And I would like to back up for just a second. I would like to say that while my tenure at the magazines was relatively short, it was really more a matter of the money. It was not about the, what was going. I wasn't on the scam train or anything like that. But yeah, I only spent about 3 years at the magazines. But to give you an idea how well I left the magazines, Cole Quinnell, who was, and I'm sorry to step on you, Christian, Cole Quinnell, he was a staffer at Hot Rod magazine, and I'm not going to say he came up with the concept of Hot Rod Power Tour, but like that staff collectively, that's Freiberger, and I think Rob Canan was there, and stuff like that. They came up with Hot Rod Power Tour, and Cole transitioned from Hot Rod to becoming the editor of this brand new magazine called 4x4 Power, of which I was the first associate editor. And so when he eventually transitioned into Four Wheel and Off Road, and it's like, okay, well, how can I apply this Power Tour formula to Ultimate Adventure? And I believe that's where the genesis of Ultimate Adventure was born. How do we make an off-road version of it? And I think he did a pretty darn good job.
Yeah, and that first one, we stayed in hotels. There were guys on that first trip that had trailers, and so it wasn't really true to how the event is today.
Myself included, maybe,
Yep.
Allegedly, maybe.
You showed up with a trailer, but I remember you driving.
No, I left my trailer in Las Cruces, and I drove to Phoenix, and then did the wheeling in Phoenix.
Sounds like a country song. I left my trailer in Las Cruces.
Well, we need to pause here for a second.
I trailered the rest of the time.
We need to pause here for a second because we're assuming that everyone knows what the Hot Rod Power Tour is. They don't. Like, not everyone knows what that is. So we need to back up and say, let's zero base this. What is it? Like, what's the concept?
Hot Rod Power Tour is basically a week-long road trip with hot rods, and so basically it's run what you brung. And I think the first one, they started in Los Angeles. I honestly don't remember where they ended. They may have gone all the way to Michigan, although I don't think so. But what they would do is, it was just, hey guys, we're going to meet at such and such a place at such and such a time, and then we are going to road trip our way to whatever the destination was. And forgive me, I don't remember exactly what the destination was, but it was a week-long road trip essentially. And they had a loose route. There wasn't any like official check. I think you got kind of some bonus points or something like that. There were some checkpoints that you could check in at or take a picture at or something like that. But it was a week-long road trip event. And then there were stops every night, and then they would usually, the next day, they would go to a drag strip, and then they would go drag racing. And then they would move on to the next one. But the whole key was you couldn't bring a trailer. You had to drive your car. And then based on that, again, my understanding, Drag Week came out of that, and Drag Week is actually much closer to Ultimate Adventure than Power Tour is. But Drag Week is a more hardcore version of that, where these guys are running 7-8 second cars, and they're doing 1,000 to 1,400 miles in the course of a week. They have checkpoints that they have to hit, and that's an actual competition. So they'll start at one drag strip. I think the way it's set up is you make as many passes as you want for your, to get the best time that you can for your class. And then that's what you turn in. You turn in your best 2 time slips, and then you road trip to the next drag strip. Of course, all kinds of hijinks ensue with breakage and all that other stuff. But the cool part is like at the end of it, they average all those time slips. So I think you have to turn in a minimum of 2 at each drag strip, and then they average all those times, and then they base the winners off of those times. And there have been some really, really cool, epic stories of, melting down motors on the side of the road. And that's the other thing is I guess they can't really change major things. So like the guy that's in the lead by a second and a half, which in drag racing is huge, melts down before the last drag strip. So he's done. You can't change the motor or whatever. And so, but most other things you can. It's a really cool, it's a hardcore event for hardcore drag racers. And that's, I think, like I said, I think UA and Drag Week are a little bit closer aligned, even though, of course, Unreal Adventure is not a competition, whereas Drag Week is.
I'd imagine back when this started, it was kind of a publicity thing for both like enthusiasts and companies that want to embark. Like before I got to Banks Power, I know that Gail Banks had done a couple hot rod power tours. And for him, it was publicity, right? It was going out and being badass and showing everyone what you built, and that it can do a couple thousand miles and still win races and such. So it feels like, and correct me if I'm wrong, it was publicity for the participants, unlike UA, which is, it doesn't really have the publicity piece of the puzzle anymore.
I wouldn't.
I don't agree with that.
I think what it is UA is. There's no faking that goes on in UA. There's, we are really doing 1,000 to 1,400 miles on road, interspersed with like the hardest off-road trails. And so those
no trailers.
Yeah, and no trailers allowed. Not since the second one we omitted trailers. Those people who choose to participate on it, whether you're a reader, a staffer, or an especially sponsor, your build, your parts, your temperament, everything is being put to the highest test of what it is we do out there. And not only is it, day to day, but it's that whole week cumulatively, the attrition just starts stacking up. And so, if you have a component that can make it through UA, no problem on your daily driver, weekend warrior, or your trail slaying,
And there's a lot of novel stuff that you guys tested out on UA, where a company came in and said, "Hey, we've got this Cummins R2.8." You guys put in a bunch of different things.
Back in the day, the crawler, BFG crawler,
crawlers
was. I think that was on the third UA. They came out the BFG truck and gave. I remember guys grooving their own blocks. To kind of create their own kind of pseudo tread.
How about the F-150 EcoBoost when it came out?
Yep, that was
to show that EcoBoost could put up with what UA was going to throw at it.
So how much of the event is, again, sponsor versus just enthusiasts who are just going out there to have a good time and to put their own vehicle and themselves through the test?
Well, I mean, it's 50-50, I would say. I mean, there are sponsors that are there for the event itself, and obviously, to speak to the exposure element, I mean that they're there to promote their products or whatever, but they're also there to show, hey, we don't just talk the talk, we walk the walk, so to speak. In the terms of the sponsor, or in terms of the readers, we'll invite anywhere from 2 to 5 readers per year. It just depends on the total vehicle count So, and they're very much a large part of it. And actually, Christian and I are struggling with what do we call these guys? Because readers is not an appropriate.
I was going to ask because they're not readers anymore, right? They're viewers.
They're
or
tourists.
Like, what are they, and how are they finding you? Like,
consumers.
Where is this content ending up?
We'll come up with something. But yeah, that's one of the fun elements.
Watchers.
Well, no, like literally, like, so are you talking about this in advance?
Lurkers.
No, you don't want to call them lurkers. They're trolls. No,
I'm
not
kidding.
insult them.
I'm kidding.
But, like, where are they seeing the content pre, during, and post? Or are they, like, what form does this take?
So originally it was, you had to apply through the magazine, and then later on it was a portal on the website, and then later on that got really complicated, and so Christian kind of created his own form or whatever, and that's the way we did it. And nowadays, if anybody wants to be a part of Unreal Adventure today, they need to just go to unreal-adventure.com. Again, that's unreal-adventure.com, and you can find out all about the event, the people behind it, and then how to apply. And we are currently keeping all of those submissions, so we're not just throwing them away and you got to start over the next year, at least for the time being. But you can go there, and if you think you got the stuff to be a part of UA, then apply. And there's a form there. We highly encourage. There's photos photos, of course. We highly, highly, highly encourage doing like a 2 to 5 minute video walk around of your vehicle, explaining what it is and what's cool about it and the modifications you've made and things like that. And then based on that, we'll take all those into consideration.
And there's some familiar names still associated with it, like Clifton Slay, Dave Chappelle, not the other one. Fred Williams, Vern Simons, Tom Boyd, Chris Durham, and of course Hazel and Trent. So it's the same people you know and love. And now you guys have this year.
It's all the same people.
Yeah, and this year Skyjacker is the presenting sponsor for you guys.
Skyjacker is our presenting sponsor, so it's Unreal Adventure 2024 presented by Skyjacker Suspensions.
And then who else is on board?
We have Milestar Tires is the official tire. We have Quigley custom drive shafts.
By the way, watching a Quigley Chevy van 4-wheel drive conversion on UA is freaking. Tiger is like out of control on that thing.
I always say, I've said this many times this year alone, but he is just a walking endorsement for the durability of the Quigley brand.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it's amazing.
And the drive shafts.
Yes,
What is this? What is it? Is this like an old Chevy van or is it brand new?
Chevy Express van.
2010
It's a Chevy Express?
Yeah.
a big one.
Yeah.
And man, he gets
four
it.
wheel drive solid axle swap.
He gets it.
Oh, that's rad.
We have IH Parts America as the official IH truck and scout part.
Those guys are
Unreal
awesome.
Adventure. Yeah, Jeff Ismail is the
I
best.
stayed down the street from him in Moab a few years ago, and at that house I had, So the last year I was in Moab for Easter Jeep Safari, not this past one, but the last year, right after I got laid off, Motor Trend didn't know, or nobody checked that I had already prepaid for an Airbnb.
I was there by myself.
Yeah.
Because I was the last man standing in the company.
And I'm like, I think I called Christian. I'm like, hey, do you need are you going to Moab? He goes, no, I can't really afford it, and they won't let me get a hotel room. I'm like, I have a house that they paid for. He's like, what? I'm like, so if you come stay at my house, then I'm your guest because you work for the company.
Done.
Yeah, right.
Done.
So that worked out pretty good.
We still have Off-Road Design as the official
our friend
transfer
Stephen
case.
Watson.
Stephen Watson, yeah.
Who is
awesome.
a show regular.
Yes. So the official transfer case. So the vehicle I'm driving, as all of our vehicles, has a Magnum underdrive unit in it with an MP205 made by Stephen Watson.
Reminds me of a joke, but we won't tell it on the air here.
Yes.
The Magnum joke, yeah. Can you say what it costs the person? Because it's not free. It's not the tab is not picked up by Skyjacker.
If you're a sponsor, it varies. But sponsorship's one thing. If you're interested in sponsoring, come see Trent or myself, and we'll happily share a deck.
No, we got
But
listeners that want to be part of it.
Or
if you're an invited reader, you just pay your own way. There's no entry fee to be.
There's no entry fee
Unreal
whatsoever.
Adventure.
And if you got that kind of money burning a hole in your pocket, go ahead and email us at thetruckshowpodcast@gmail.com. We'll be sure to pass the sponsorship request on to our friends at Unreal Adventure.
Now, are you stopping, because it's a kind of a rally-ish type of thing? Are you stopping in hotels? Is it all camping? Like, that part I don't know.
So it is a mix. So and it's always been kind of a mix since the early days. But we camp several nights, often several nights in a row. So not only are we going, doing this 7-day hardcore trip, but you have to carry all your accoutrements with you, often all the way down a killer hardcore trail.
The accoutrement that you will need. Accoutrement!
Who's the perfect participant for UA? Who do you want? I mean,
you with your TRX.
And
that's actually an easier answer than you might think. So we've got a set list of vehicle requirements that you need to have built into your vehicle to be eligible for Unreal Adventure, and that's all on our website. What we're looking for is personality, temperament, attitude. It's as much, if not more, about the person/driver as it is the vehicle.
So that's why Trent's saying you should put in, he wants video. So
we want video.
You're actually exposing who you are when you're doing the walk around of your truck.
That does kind of help. Yes, that helps us, kind of if they're two equal vehicles and one's got to walk around where, the person seems pretty fun. That might be the tipping point. But even after that, there's another layer. After we've kind of selected the vehicles we like, we narrow them down to what we call the dirty dozen. So we narrow all the applications down to 12, and then I actually get on the phone and do interviews, calls, just have a chat, I guess you could say. And that's, kind of the one of the last
pretty hardcore vetting.
Yeah. I mean, it takes a long time, believe it or not. Especially, I found this year during an election cycle where the spamming is it's hard to get people to pick up the phone, let alone call you back. And then, after I've kind of done that, Trent and I reconvene, and then we make our final selections. And this year we landed on five invited readers and one returning reader from last year.
Basically, what we're looking for, I mean, your car gets you in the door for sure. The more unique, the better. As we've said in the past, what we're looking for varies. We're looking for variety. And so the more unique, the better. If it's a Jeep JL, that's kind of a tough one unless you're really, 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 it's a really, really unique build.
So Trent, what I'm hearing is if you have an El Camino, a lifted El Camino, you're in.
No.
Not automatically, but we would take a second look at it.
Now, if it was a donk or something.
Oh, that's funny.
We would at least take a second look, but there's also we had among the Dirty Dozen this year was a BMW X5 and an AMC Eagle and an LX450 and an F350. I mean, we're always looking for variety, and so the other thing I'd like to say to anybody that's interested in applying is if you don't get selected this year or next year or whatever, keep applying because our criteria changes because we look at what the sponsors are bringing. I mean, obviously we don't want 23 JLs in a line. That's very boring in terms of video. So we're looking for as much variety as possible. And to Christian had said in one of our other deals that sometimes it could be as simple as we've got too many yellow cars. I mean, it could be that dumb, but if you don't get selected, please reapply, or we'll hang on to your selection and we'll consider you for next year because it really does change from year to year to year to year to year. I will say having uniqueness is definitely kind of gets you towards the front of the line.
But that said, in our Dirty Dozen this year, we had a YJ Wrangler. We are not just going to automatically overstep a Jeep.
No. Yeah,
Over the last 10 years or so, what is the oddest vehicle that you let in and then outperformed your expectations?
Well, that's a good question.
Good job, Lightning.
You stumped me.
I got one.
I gotta think about that. The oddest one we let in and exceeded our expectations.
I'm going to say there was an S10 Blazer last year. I think it was last year. And he had applied 7 times. He finally got in and he brought it. I mean, he totally brought it.
Oh, and helping out when other people needed it and just the best attitude.
What did he do to that thing to make it survive? Like, how do you make that truck rock
Oh,
crawl.
most of these vehicles that are getting in have 1-ton axles under it, and
okay.
37, 40-inch
Yeah.
tires. Although 35s are all you need to meet the requirement. This year, most people entering were on 40s.
I feel like that Derek's car evolved as he applied. So like it kept getting better. It kept getting better. It kept getting better.
And not only that, he applied with more than one vehicle, which we don't mind either.
Oh,
That's true.
interesting.
Derek had applied with, he has a truck thing, I'll call it. It's a truckish, like a full
That's the
size.
hydraulic thing.
Yeah, full size. I think it used to be a Chevy at some point in time, and then the S10. And I actually, when I called him, I'm like, hey, yeah, this is Christian. I'm here.
You're in, but you have to bring.
Well, not in,
the
but like he's like,
S10.
well, which one are we talking about? I'm like, the S10. He's like,
Yeah.
okay.
Oh, that's cool.
So
Yeah.
you could do the Mercedes. You could do your TRX.
I don't think
your golf cart.
a convertible SL would be good off road.
I'm just saying you could apply. None of them would make it though.
No,
The weirdest,
not even the TRX would
weirdest
make
one
it.
weirdest one in recent memory that I can think of right now is that BMW X5 that made the Dirty Dozen this year.
Yeah,
a BMW X5. Come on, guys.
It's because it's too
what- is
pedestrian, or
how
what?
is that an off-road
Oh
car?
no!
Right.
I mean, when was the last time you saw a
No.
BMW X5 with solid axles under it?
Yeah, was it on 37s?
Oh, what?
It was on 40s.
Oh my
think,
gosh.
What?
With
awesome.
a with
Where's
a
this-
408 Cube LS.
Where can I see this?
It's on our YouTube channel. I think. Go to our YouTube channel, Unreal Adventure YouTube channel.
Unreal Adventure.
Yeah.
Was it Unreal Adventure 4x4,
yeah,
right?
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Unreal Adventure 4x4.
Was this a new X5 or like the
It was
older
like
generation?
an 06 or a 16 or a 10. I don't know.
You
I don't know
even
X5s.
Because I'm just thinking, I had what year was my X5? Like 03, 4, 5, something like
4,
that.
wasn't
Whatever.
it?
Yeah.
It was that first generation body style, and
Which
I'm
looked
thinking
like a
that
5
would-
Series that was
That would
like
have, yeah. It
taller.
had a little, it had the
It's in the
Straight
Dirty
six in it?
Dozen video. So if you go watch the Dirty Dozen video, that's
And
on
it's
our channel.
chaptered, so you can see it.
Yeah.
So you
it's-
could just fast forward.
the engineering's off the hook.
The thing is absolutely nuts, and it looks stock inside. It's not like he body swapped it or anything like that. I mean, it is a BMW X5 that he appended 1-ton axles, 40s, an LS, the whole 9 yards, and
Magnum or
like
Atlas?
he reached in during I think a doubler, yeah,
203
and like he reached during. He also had a really good walk around video. Hint, hint, everybody. But like when he reached, when he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna pop the hood and show you guys under the hood," he opened the door, reached in, pulled the normal hood latch, and then walked around and opened the hood. And it's like, okay, well, that's rad, because it would have been way easier to just put hood pins in it, because I'm sure he had to cut the heck out of the radio
Oh, for
or the
sure.
core support,
Yeah.
to make that all fit. So that's pretty darn cool, and that's an attention to detail that's pretty neat.
I'm surprised
in my
that the
opinion.
guy who owns the Mini Cooper, it's like an 05 Mini Cooper up on solid axles and 40s, hasn't applied. Whoever that guy is, everyone's seen that car. Like that would be
I don't
the.
think
Yeah.
I've seen that, but I remember when I was running Top Truck Challenge, when I was the editor of Four Wheeler, we had a guy with a little car. It was like some British or something. Like it wasn't a Mini, but it was super cool. And man, he just flogged that thing. It was awesome to watch.
Okay,
Yeah.
so what are the dates and when do people need to submit by?
Well, this year we've already made our selections.
Oh, boo.
So you're applying for 2025, folks.
There you
So
go.
get your stuff together and get us your best application. This year we're going to be holding the event at the end of September.
Okay, this is right around the corner. And when can we see the video content? When does it go up on your YouTube channel?
More than likely right after Halloween. We're going to start rolling the videos out, and we are greatly expanding the video coverage compared to how the event was treated when it was Ultimate.
Well, no,
Adventure.
this is a brand new event.
Yeah,
But that other event that was owned by those other people whose lawyers haven't applied to be a part of the new event, they only did like 5 to 7 minute, like 5 videos.
Yeah, so Unreal Adventure is a 7-day event, and each
Completely
day
new,
is
people, completely
getting
new.
2 videos of 15 to 20 minute lengths. So
Oh,
we are
wow, okay.
really taking our time and expanding the coverage to show this thing inside and out.
Yeah, I mean, our biggest complaint that we ever got, and this is back in the Motor Trend days, was not so much the production quality. The quality was always pretty good. There was one exception one year where the crew that shot it was amazing. The crew that edited it was completely different, and we won't get into that. But the quality has always been there, and I can say that we have retained the services of the same production company that's been doing it for several years. And Ryan and his crew are absolutely amazing. And we're looking forward to, because honestly, so many things ended up on the cutting room floor because of the time constraints. Well, we don't have those anymore. So we're really looking forward to that. And I think Ryan and his team are also really into it. They feel the same way. And so we feel like this year we're actually really going to do this event justice.
Congrats for the perseverance all these years and keeping this thing alive, guys.
And grabbing the torch and running with it.
Yeah, we couldn't let it die. I mean, it's a
too
labor,
special.
It's been
to
a
this
labor of
community.
love, and it's just been something. That,
It's kind of weird. Is like we have a lot of listeners who obviously this podcast was started at Motor Trend, and we have a lot of listeners who know what my background is, and I think they feel like I'm the conduit to you guys, because we'll get a lot of emails, or I'll get DMs. Hey, what's going on with Christian? What's going on with Vern? What's going on with Trent? Hey, get those guys on the podcast. And to me, it's gratifying to see you going through the same thing I went through and coming out the other side and having a plan. Because we talked about this when I left Motor Trend. So many magazine guys, their whole identity is wrapped up in that one brand. And the magazine dies, they leave, whatever. They just disappear into the ether because they don't know how to be themselves without that title or that prestige, if you will, that came with being a magazine guy. And whether that's as true today as it used to be or not is kind of beside the point. The point is, for me, is I like to see my friends successful. I like to see guys like you guys who didn't give up and quit because somebody moved your cheese. You said, you know what? We're in this. We love this. We do this anyway. So anyway, it's just good to see you guys out doing it, and you're doing it because you're the real deal. And to be able to follow your success and help you guys get the word out, we appreciate that, and appreciate you carving out the time to come visit us here on the Truck Show podcast.
yeah, and thanks for giving us this platform to let your audience know about it. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, it's for us, it's definitely a labor of love. It's not, it's definitely not one of monetary gain. I can guarantee that.
Nor is this show.
Yeah, I've read that book.
You guys know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
But it goes back to what you were initially saying, Sean, a while back with magazines and its passion. And neither one of us were willing to let 25 years of history. This would have been the 25th year of Ultimate Adventure. Neither one of us were willing to let that die. And so we're carrying on, and we're eternally thankful for the sponsors that have come on board. Most of them are OG, longtime guys, and we literally could not do this without them, because dirty little secret, guys, the video productions, while they're really, really cool, they're also very expensive.
I remember at Motor Trend, we always budgeted, it was like $1,000 a minute all in for video.
Oh.
Yeah,
it's not cheap.
So,
yeah, to do it right.
So-
we are doing it right. I mean,
we are doing it right, and maybe, certainly probably to Christian and I's own detriment, but that's why we're doing it. We love this event. We want it to continue. We want it to continue for another 25 years. And so, and thank you for giving us the time on your podcast to help spread the word.
All right, well, if you guys want to find out more, especially if you're old magazine readers, you want to follow up and see where these guys ended up, you are a fan or a follower of Ultimate Adventure, and you're down in the dumps because you thought it wasn't coming back, go to unreal-adventure.com. You go to the YouTube page, which is Unreal Adventure 4x4, and then Adventure Media for the podcast.
yes.
All right. Well,
Awesome.
go there, do those things, support our friends.
All right. You guys rule. Thank you.
And then we
Thank
also
you,
have
guys.
Instagram is Unreal Adventure Official, I believe, and then on Facebook it's Unreal Adventure. So, yeah.
Go follow them. Do it now.
Please.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Trent.
All right, you guys. Love you.
All right.
Bye.
All right, Holman, if you're feeling up to it, I want to get to some email. Truckshowpodcast@gmail.com is the main inbox, or you've got lightning@truckshowpodcast.com or Holman@truckshowpodcast.com. Let's do it.
You email, yeah. I email, do it. We email, that's right. Everybody email, type it up. You email, proofread. I email, send it. We email, click it. Everybody email.
Man, when I said proofread, my voice cracked like a teenager going through
50-year-old
puberty.
boy.
Yeah. I am a 50-year-old boy. All right, let's see here. Let me start with, you cool if I start with Dan Church?
Go for it.
Okay. Dan says, okay, boys, get this on the show immediately. Make it happen. 2 exclamation marks he gives us. I have zero commercial interest here. Just this is a solid plug for an American business. $150 for 2 puddle lights that are absolutely amazing. Great quality, focus, sharpness, etc., and better customer service. Legitimately 5-minute upgrade and American made. All right, we got that part. So here's a few pics of my installation on my 24 Raptor attached. Damn! Dan with the little, the humble brag here with a Raptor.
I know. Well, I got one coming. Talk about that more upcoming episode.
Yeah, so he's got, buddy, 5 stars and mounted some parameters. Now, Dan, he attached a couple of photos, and it is the Bronco Raptor logo in kind of a bright golden yellow right on the ground at his feet, which I assume are being projected from the bottoms of the mirrors.
Usually that's where they have them.
My Mercedes is the bottom of the doors. So a lot of the cars, my wife's car is also the bottom of the doors. They've got a projector light down there. So this is pretty cool because it's big. It looks like, based on his feet in sandals, it's probably like 4 feet wide. Pretty good-sized logo on the ground. MVP Auto Supplies is where he found it. MVPAutosupplies.com. Looks like they've got quite a bit of stuff. So
Check them out.
Maybe we'll reach out to him in the near future. Thanks for the heads up, Dan.
Yeah, buddy. 5-star review. 5-star.
Sensors, monitor key engine parameters.
So that trifecta right there.
We got this one from Steve. Says, I drive 4xs. Let's see, hold on. Got this one from Steve, and he says, interviews. Let the guests talk.
We
Can't.
have a problem. We legitimately have a problem.
Oh, no. You don't have to tell. He's going to tell you what our problems are right here. I drive 4 times a week back and forth from LA to Palm Springs. This podcast helps the ride. My complaint about is if the guest isn't assertive, sometimes you guys walk all over them. Wait, what? I was trying to listen to the interview with Casey Brammer, and he couldn't get any time to get deep into his product. Lighting needs to keep his questions simple and stop rambling so much. He was 2 minutes into his question, then Holman started going on about how bugs hit the side window of a Jeep, and then the guest only had a couple of seconds to answer. What? I don't remember that.
I don't remember any actual answers because all we did is just talk.
After 10 minutes in the interview, I had to turn it off and look him up on YouTube to get some detailing ideas.
Oh, no, that sucks. That's not the goal.
When Johnny was on, he was more assertive guest. It was a way better conversation. Please let the guest be the subject matter expert on whatever you brought him on to talk about. No drops, because I can't take 10 drops of yeah, buddy, ever again. Crash. Thanks, Steve.
Steve, those are legitimate complaints. We know we have a problem, and one of the hardest things is to let there be silence.
Hey, did you hear about that?
See?
Oh, sorry.
Just like that. So that's the thing, is that they'll talk, and then they're pausing to say the next sentence, like Holman is trying to jump in on me now, and we just have to get in. We can't let silence happen.
The other problem is that there's latency between our board. And so Casey's no excuse because he was in studio. But if somebody's on the phone,
he was 8 inches from
I know,
your face.
but if somebody's on the phone, there's latency. So we hear a delay when they talk, and sometimes we think it's dead air. So we jump in to fill the air and to bring the gas. And so it's hard sometimes to balance that when they're not sitting next to you.
That's true, but you and I never take a beat and let it soak in.
What?
Exactly.
All right, got this one here
From who?
Got this one here from Chad. Says, this is because you said your whole thing about Lincoln Navigators. So Chad says, Lincoln Navigators, I'll tell you who wants them. And he says, good evening. I recently heard Lighting's comments about the customer base for the Lincoln Navigator. On one hand, he's right. This isn't the typical vehicle for those that are in the public eye known as ballers. However, here's what he's missing. This is the vehicle that the old farmer on the corner in a good old small town USA buys his wife for their 60th wedding anniversary in cash so she can use it to get the grandkids to and from school. This is the vehicle that the pipeliner gets his old lady after he comes home with his per diem and rig check after a 6-month stint in Alaska while she held down the fort for him while he was gone. And this is the vehicle for the UAW retiree who wants a luxury car to take his family on adventures. The Navigator is for the American worker who has made it in life but still wants to pay it back toward the other American workers in Kentucky, putting these things together day in and day out. This is not a billionaire's dream car. This is a vehicle for the blue-collar folks celebrating some accomplishments, the blue-collar ballers that wouldn't be caught dead in a foreign vehicle. Foreign cars are more and more popular every day, but where I grew up, Fowlerville, Michigan, if it's not from one of the big three, it's not for me. Holman, please strap Lightning to his chair with your Max straps and make him listen to Rolex on a Redneck from Brantley Gilbert and Jason Aldean. Once he's memorized it, follow up with a few solid repetitions of Made in America by the late Toby Keith. Rest in peace, Toby. This will be a solid dose to help treat the California pompousness he displayed in that episode. Also, since I know Lightning's going to try and call me an old man for this opinion, I'm 24. This is not the opinion of an old man.
Wow.
P.S.
He writes like a 75-year-old.
P.S. I wrote this sarcastically. You will not offend me if you have some fun with this email. If I didn't expect you to poke some fun at it, I wouldn't send it. Best of luck. Praying I make the read. LOL. Don't forget, everything matters. Chad. No, we're not going to poke fun at you at all. I think you bring up some very solid points that two pompous a-holes in Southern California would have never thought of.
Thanks for watching, and remember, everything matters.
Appreciate the input.
Wait, whose input do you like more? His or the
his.
previous letter?
No, his.
Crash or Chad?
Equally. I appreciate them both. I appreciate anyone who takes the time to A, listen, and B, write in. It's a chunk of time out of your day, and we truly do appreciate it. As much as you, if you're putting up with us, stepping on guests, talking over each other.
Hey, will you get on with the show?
This one is from Alden, and he writes this to lightning@truckshowpodcast.com. I've got a 2004 F350, and I'm looking to make an upgrade. I want to upgrade the diff cover and intercooler and possibly go to a 6-gun tuner. I guess this is Banks related. I've got a 40-foot Weekend Warrior. Oh, that's the big one. That's the big Mahamba, the 40-foot Weekend Warrior.
Yeah, it is.
Like that. I think that's the one that could be one of the ones that they got sued over because it was like way, way heavy, like heavier than they advertised. So anyways, he's got a 40-foot Weekend Warrior up and down the mountains here in Arizona, and a diff cover would be helpful. Also, you're a good sport for taking all the teasing on the show. Yes, I am. But we know you're the reason we have such good. But you're the reason we know we have such great audio to listen to.
Oh, now I know why you read that email.
I mean, I didn't know. This is the first time I'm reading it.
Uh-huh.
Thank you for the show and your time. Alden, P.S. I laugh every single time you go on the seesaw tangent, knowing that my poor grammar brought this out years ago with my very first email that I sent in. So thank you very much.
We remember seeing that email.
It looks like you're fishing for some parts for your truck, and Alden, I'm going to email you back a discount code, and we're going to make that happen for your 04350. So thank you.
All right, our buddy Ryan Evans writes in the subject line, Lincoln. Light wallet, I'm rich, LOL.
Light wallet, I'm rich.
That's a good one. He says, $116,000 is way cheaper than whatever a G-Wagon costs. Also can haul more people and tow, not even in the same class.
Okay, those weren't up for debate. I wasn't saying that it didn't have certain features, didn't have tow capability, interior capacity. I didn't say any of those things weren't true. I said, who's buying a Lincoln Navigator in 2024 when there are other baller rich guy stuff to buy? And
then everyone in the Midwest shook their head at you.
I don't think so. There are a lot of Chevy guys that would be like, I'm not touching it. A lot of guys that like German stuff, they wouldn't touch it. I don't know. So here we are. We found out. We got a couple. They like it. Good on you. Next.
Well, I'll tell you what's next. We have to thank Trent and Christian for coming on. And guys, please, if you're a fan of Ultimate Adventure, please check out Unreal Adventure. It's literally the same guys, the same format, the same stuff you know and love, just with the people who run it are now the owners of it. So go check it out. Support those guys.
It's kind of like this podcast.
Kind of like.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, support this this podcast too, even if you don't get any good information because we just like to talk too much. I'll tell you something funny in a second.
The Truck Show, the Truck Show, the Truck Show. Oh, oh.
I was just letting the music breathe because I'm just taking a pause, letting them soak it in.
So I asked you at the beginning of the show what was the thing from AMSOIL that you took away.
Yeah.
Do you remember when they asked us, like, how would you fill, like, a couple hours? And we laughed. And then we laughed, and we laughed some more. And I'm like, have you ever listened to us? Like, we don't know how to stop.
We have a problem.
And an outlet.
We've talked about this before, guys, but like when we started this show back almost 7 years ago, we thought, oh my gosh, we'll never be able to fill up 45 minutes. There's no way we can do it. What are we going to say for 45 minutes?
Now we can't. We can't do 45 minutes if we try.
We can't get it below 3 hours.
We hope it's the way that, that's one of the reasons that we endear ourselves to you and you love us, even though you probably love to hate us at the same time. But if you love us more than you hate us, then follow us on social, at LBC Lighting, at Sean P. Holman, and at Truck Show Podcast. Or leave us a message, 657-205-6105. We want to hear from you, and we promise, if you send us a voicemail, we promise to not talk over your voicemail, probably.
Probably.
And if you email us at truckshowpodcast@gmail.com or Holman@truckshowpodcast.com or Lightning@truckshowpodcast.com, it is impossible for us to talk over your email. So that's another way. So also smoke signals, and when you're on a ship,
semaphores,
and you get the flashing semaphores from across the ocean. Those are also formats that we aren't able to talk over.
I prefer carrier pigeon.
Carrier pigeon, okay,
Mm-hmm.
all right,
yeah.
All right. So Truck Show Podcast expanding from podcasting to carrier pigeon is what I'm hearing.
We're awful. We're just awful.
Well,
Does it feel good?
It was, yeah. I mean, we do it because we love it.
We're like two pigs just rolling around in slop.
Listen, just eat. It's train wreck, and we know that's why you listen.
Yeah.
You can hear it sucking.
Yeah.
We've tried.
We can't.
Well, fortunately, we have really good sponsors that will put up with us, just like you guys will. So we got to thank Nissan for being the presenting sponsor of the Truck Show Podcast. Head on down to your local Nissan dealer. Check out the new Frontier. Check out the even newer new Frontier and the new Armada coming within the next month or so. Or you can point your browser to nissanusa.com where you can build a price, check out all the features, all the specs, and all the things that make Nissan awesome trucks.
Since when do you point a browser?
With the pointer that you have on your
Don't
screen.
you know you point and then you have to key something in. You got to type Nissan.
Yeah, but you start with
USA.
pointing. You just admitted it, so that's the beginning.
Okay. Well, if you're pointing things, point at the new Ultimate Fluid Cooling Bundle over at bankspower.com. If you've got a 2001 to 2019 or 2020 plus Duramax pickup truck and you want your fluids cooler, like your engine oil or your transmission fluid, we got you covered. The Cool Runner oil pan and the Ram Air Trans Pan are now available for Duramax pickup trucks. bankspower.com to find yours.
And in the theme of pointing, point yourself toward next week's episode.
Stop pointing.
Where? Why is it rude?
Yes.
Okay.
I actually told someone that at work just the other day.
Why?
One of the guys, Steven, he was like, "Hey, where's that guy?" Walked up to our front door because we're not in the main office. We're across the street. The guy walks up and Steven did the points like with his index finger, like it's over there. I'm like, Steven, it's like Disneyland. You don't point. You have your entire arm extended, all 5 fingers straight out, and you like offer like this way, sir, guide, like this. All walk with me.
What is wrong with you?
And I'm like, don't point. It's rude.
You're not his dad.
I had to dad up for a second.
All right. Well, I'll
And
point.
now he's like at Disneyland, like not a chauffeur. What do you
Okay,
call it?
I'm not gonna point. I'm gonna usher you toward next week's episodes where
Perfect.
we go and we get the behind the scenes deep dive of how AMSOIL is made. So if you want a high quality, 100% synthetic product,
They do.
then you want to go to AMSOIL.com. You can find out about how AMSOIL fight engine wear, how it maximizes horsepower, and how it has excellent all-temperature performance. All of this and more at AMSOIL.com, because AMSOIL is the first in synthetics.
And speaking of absolute top quality products, EGRUSA.com is where you go for the EGR Roll Trek electric retractable bed cover. They also have them in manual operation. I prefer electric, but it's up to you. Head over to EGRUSA.com to grab yours.
And as a reminder, we'd love to get reviews from you, either on Spotify or Apple, and please...
But not of this episode. Not this one.
Ignore this one. Just the other ones that were your favorite. And then also go to truckshowpodcast.com where you can download episodes. You can check out featured products with discounts and deals, and also find out where some events are happening toward you in our events calendar. So if you have an event, feel free to share it with us at truckshowpodcast@gmail.com, and we will add it to the calendar.
I feel like we owe our audience this.
THANKYOU. Thank you. Thank you.
That's funny because I was thinking we needed to apologize.
We are deeply sorry. We're sorry. We're sorry. We're sorry.
So We're thanking them, and we're sorry.
Yes, we're thanking them for sticking with us, and we're sorry that they're here.
Wait, no, that's bad. We're not sorry that they're here.
We're thanking them for joining us, and sorry we chased them away. Which, of course, if we chase them away, they're not hearing this.
No, just you and I talking to ourselves like normal.
Well, isn't that how it normally is? We're just sitting in a box talking to each other, and somehow thousands of people listen in to our conversations every week. It's weird.
What the hell is wrong with you?
Everything.
The Truck Show Podcast is a production of Truck Famous LLC. This podcast was created by Sean Holman and Jay Tillis with production elements by DJ Omar Khan. If you like what you've heard, please open your Apple Podcast or Spotify app and give us a 5-star rating. And if you're a fan, there's no better way to show your support than by patronizing our sponsors. Some vehicles may have been harmed during the making of this podcast.